Hello and welcome to the 20 Days Face Your Fear Online Challenge. I'm Antu, trying to facilitator, therapist, and writer. My mission is to help people heal their power to be able to live the life of their bliss. I'm super excited to be your host on your journey to personal growth through empowerment, fearlessness, and the power of community. Today I have a very special guest, Becky Walsh. Hi, Becky. Becky Walsh turns the world of self-development on its head with her down-to-earth and uniquely funny style. She's a very funny person indeed. She's a past broadcaster on LBC and now freelancer for BBC Radio. Becky has also created and presented her own TV show, Becky's Life Hacks. Author of 5 books, including You Do Know, Learn to Act on Intuition Instantly, published by Hay House. Becky blends spirituality, intuition, and neuroscience in her one-to-one consultations and has her own interactive live one-woman show blending personal transformation, demonstrations of intuition with stand-up comedy. And I've recently been to one of her later shows, which was a brilliant experience. Thank you very much for that, Becky. How are you today?
I'm very good. If I keep looking down, it's because my dog's walking around. I don't know where she's going.
Your dog is always somewhere in your videos, in your interviews, in your recordings.
And if you can't see her, you can hear her snoring. So she's always around in some way. You can always hear this kind of, I'll be in the middle of saying something really meaningful and all you can hear is, I guess she's heard it before.
That's pretty cute. Okay, so let's get started with facing your fears. My first question for you is, what was the biggest fear you ever overcame and how did you do it?
I think my biggest fear was being so, not necessarily in a burning car or trapped in a house, but just being trapped in my life, financially trapped or trapped in a relationship that you can't get out of because you've got a family attached to it. So that was my real fear. And so I think when you have a fear like that, when you have a fear of being trapped, you also become frightened of fear itself because fear itself is a trap. So the way that I overcame it was by acting like a completely crazy person. And I did bungee jumps, I raced bangers, I jumped out of an aeroplane, I had motorbikes, I just lived my life completely on the edge. I did, experimental crazy sex. I did really stupid hardcore drugs. I couldn't get addicted, I did try. So I tried, because I didn't want to get trapped in an addiction. So there was no way I was ever going to get addicted because I had a fear of being trapped. Anyway, so I just did everything I could possibly do to overcome fear. But in actual fact, I think the long run of that is, did it work? Because I've never got married, I've never had kids, and I've never been financially dependent on anyone. So when you sort of think about like getting over a fear, I think you come to the realization that you decide to work with it rather than overcome it. And you either work with it and you kind of like go, okay, well, if this, gives you the willies so much, you've got 2 choices. Don't do it, like don't do the thing that scares you. So, okay, well then stay single, don't get married, don't have kids, don't do that, and that can be a thoroughly happy life for you. Or you overcome it by throwing yourself into the one thing that you fear and turning it on its head and enjoying it. So I guess I turned a lot of my fears on their head by experiencing them and overcoming them by facing them. But then there are some other things that I just went, actually sometimes a fear becomes a personal choice. It becomes a choice. And so sometimes you can go, I don't want to do that, but not just because I fear it, but I don't choose it. And so sometimes we get confused and we think that a fear is holding us back. And then when we actually look at it, we go, is that a psychological block, or do I just not choose it because I fear what I have seen it do to other people and I don't choose that for me? Obviously it may turn out differently for me, but I still don't choose putting myself up to be wrong. So it's interesting, isn't it? Fear's an interesting thing.
Okay, so this is like picking our battles, because when we go to war, like, are we gonna play all of them, or just it's up to us in which direction we want to grow? Yeah, I've also experienced that. Like, there's so many things that we can do, and there's so many directions for our growth, and it's up to us as a conscious choice, as a conscious creator that we are with our lives, because we have the power to create our reality.
Yeah, we do. And, you know, I mean, and I did some crazy independent travel where I was turning up places where, and people were going, oh my God, like, you know, that's completely mad, you know. Or I love it when people tell you that your choices are brave. And somebody says, oh, that's really brave. And I go, well, hindsight will tell me if it was brave or stupid. Mm. And that's the thing. We always look back in hindsight and kind of like go, well, oh, that was a really stupid thing to do. Well, if it worked out, it wouldn't have been a stupid thing to do. But you decide after the event whether or not it worked out. And that's your choices in a way, because you can kind of go, okay, that didn't work out the way I'd planned it to work out. But actually, I learned a lot of lessons there that were of benefit. So maybe it worked out better than it would have done if it had have actually worked out, if that makes sense. There's too many working outs in that sentence.
It's just about taking the risk, and whatever happens, there's still something to learn from it, rather than not doing it at all and not learning anything. Would you agree?
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there are some things that you can really damage yourself with. So there are sometimes, like, I'm very interested in archetypes, and I've got a very, very strong survivor archetype. And to keep that survivor happy, I have to keep throwing myself into things for it to survive. Now, luckily, I always do. Hello, I'm still here. So luckily, I always do. But I've had some moments where it's been by the skin of my teeth. I've had guns pulled on me twice in my life, which most people probably haven't had that kind of experience. And through the fact that I've got the gift of the gab, I've never been shot. But I'm here to tell the tale, so I wouldn't necessarily advise everybody to go with my face all of your fears, because sometimes, you know, oh, I have a fear of being shot. I know.
I'm just gonna go and get shot.
Score some crazy drugs in some crazy prostitute's house and some crazy situation with some crazy guy and see what happens, because that'll be interesting. And these are the things that you do when you're younger. And then when you're older, you start to, I know this sounds funny, but when you're older, you start to really understand the value of life. And I don't know if that's because people start dying or because you have things that start to rely on you. You know, like you get children, or you get aging parents, or you get a fabulous dog, or you get all of these things that you suddenly start to go, actually, I am of meaning. I am of meaning, and my life has a meaning. And my meaning is not to just go around scaring the pants off myself to see if I can survive it, but I am important and relevant to other people. And then you start to kind of like think twice about going on the back of a motorbike with a crazy girl, in my case, or you think, you know, you just think a little more hard about some of the choices that you're making. And actually, I think fear intensifies as you get older. You would think it was the opposite, that actually the more you experience, the more you live through, the more you go, I'm nailing it, still alive, people. But actually that doesn't happen. The more you actually walk carefully on frozen ground, and which is strange, isn't it? Because you think, well, I've done frozen ground a million times, but you remember what it's like to fall over and it hurts. So you walk like a duck.
So are you saying now that you have more fears now than when you were younger?
No, I have more cares now. Okay. And interestingly, more care creates more fear, because there's really they say there's two fears in life: losing what you've got and not getting what you want. But I think there's a third, more powerful fear, which is letting people down. Okay. And so when you get older, you have more people to let down. You have more people who are dependent on you, more people who love you. And I think that you care more about your life. You care more about losing things like the roof over your head because you worry about your financial security and all of those other little things that you don't really worry about when you're younger. So I wouldn't say there's more fear, there's more care. And with more care that comes more consequence, and that comes more fear. It doesn't mean that you're living your life in more fear. Okay. It means that you're living your life with more care.
More responsibility as well. So,
as Archetypal says, with great power comes great responsibility.
Indeed. So what would you advise people who are afraid of letting other people down, especially those that depend on them? How would you go about this?
Oh, you know, I mean, I think that fear of letting people down, of kind of, you know, it's that thing where you wake up in the morning having had a few drinks, you know, with a group of people, and you rerun all of the things that you can remember that you did the night before and everything that you said. And there is a level of anxiety that comes with the morning after alcohol, and where you go through everything in your mind. And I think that this is a point where our monkey mind really has been ruling the show the night before, that when you were going, you know, And then in the morning, when you've kind of like got that sobriety, when you kind of like look back of all of the things that you've said, and I think it is a natural disposition for us in terms of our actual DNA and our desire to stay alive, that we still believe that we all live in caves. And if you fall out with your tribe, you will be kicked out of the cave, and you'll be eaten by a saber-toothed cat, and you will die in the snow. So most of us still believe that that is what will happen to us if we fall out with our support network. And in actual fact, the more you build your support network, the more fearless you feel in your life, because you know that you've got support. You know that if something goes wrong, you're going to be picked up at the end of it. You know, I think abundance is the people who will wash your smalls if your washing machine breaks down, or the people who will kind of help you if your house is on fire, or the people that you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, they go, just get in a taxi and get here now. You know, it's, you know, and I think that it allays fears having a support network, but then the fear of upsetting your support network and falling out with the tribe is terrifying. And this is why bullying is so hostile. You can't just go, well, that's an opinion. Because when you're in a working environment or in a school environment, you really rely on those tribes. And if you're going to get kicked out of the tribe, you really believe, I mean, you absolutely believe you're going to die. It's not like, because you know you're not going to die, but there is an inner belief in your ego, in that monkey mind, that actually believes that you're going to die. And I think the best thing that you can really do is find true, authentic support networks, people who love you even when you're wrong, like people who can actually hold the space and don't start testing them, but love them so hard, like love them and be there for them and support them, because the more you give out what you want to receive, the greater you receive what it is. So the more you love other people and the more that you are, you know, you are there for them and you've got their back, then the more you've got a tribe that means that you can feel that they are your launch pad for every brave undertaking, because they are the friends that will go, dude, what the hell were you thinking? Seriously though, I mean, do you really want to do that? And you go, thanks for your opinion, yes I do. And then when it all falls over, they don't ever mention the fact that they told you so. They're your friends.
Yeah, these are real friendships. And with this online challenge and creating an online community of supportive people who have the same interests in personal growth and holding space for each other. And thank you for mentioning this important point. The power of community is incredible. And yeah, we're doing it together. We're in this together, and we are, even though we think we're so self-empowered and we can do everything ourselves, well, we depend on everybody around us. We're interdependent rather than codependent.
Absolutely.
There's a difference. What can you say about the difference between codependency and interdependency?
I think codependency to me is when somebody, you know, I mean, obviously there's drug codependence where, you know, you've got an addict and the person who's codependent on the addict because help is the sunny side of control. And if I'm devoting my life to somebody else, then I don't have to devote my life to me. So I can blame them for the fact that I'm doing bugger all with my life. So that's one thing. But also I think that we create, I think this is very true in the spiritual community, where people will dump their problems on someone and kind of go, well, you're spiritual, you're supposed to hold this shit.
Especially the spiritual teachers and the gurus themselves.
What that do that to other people? Yeah, no, they do.
No, the followers, they rely too much on the spiritual teacher and then blame them for their own mishaps, you know, instead of realizing that they have the power to deal with their own stuff and not blame the teacher.
Yeah, it's what I call looking at the finger, where they spend so much time looking at the finger and not where the person's pointing. But I think it's not just, I mean, because obviously spiritual teachers can be codependent too, because they become codependent on helping people. So this isn't all that we are all kind of like, you know, washed free of our egos, because, you know, any want that you've got is coming from your ego. Even the want for enlightenment comes from your ego, and your ego's not stupid, it's not suicidal. So the ego always says, go and look for enlightenment outside of yourself. In all of the places you won't find it. But I think that there is a tendency for people to like go, well, you know, I'm in a spiritual community, or I'm with this spiritual person, or I'm doing this kind of thing, and I'm going to dump all of my problems on them and expect them to hold the space for me. And the other person kind of goes, whoa, okay, so what do I do with it, with this? Like you come into my life and you've just dropped, like a little bit like opening up your handbag and emptying everything out, and the person's like, okay, well, here's a tampon, lovely, here's your lipstick, that's great, okay, there's 10 pence that came out of your purse, what are you doing? why do I need to look at your shit, man? Why do I need this? And I think that what can then happen is then we feel let down, that that person isn't interested in what's in your handbag and doesn't want you, and doesn't want to help you put your handbag back together again. And I think we then kind of like go, oh, that person's let me down, because we have definitions of friendship being about necessity and getting your needs met. Actually, friendships are about love and playfulness and fun. And the last thing that they're about is being there when somebody else's life falls apart. And I think sometimes we treat our friendships as therapists, you know, like we treat our friends as if they're our therapists. And we phone them up when we're having a problem, rather than phoning up and going, oh my God, there's this film and I really fancy the bloke that's in it. Do you want to come and see it? It's really good. It's like this bloke and blah, blah, blah. And then this thing happens. It's really good. And it's got a spaceship. You know, because I'd be there. Any films with spaceships in, I'm coming. But you know, and I think that becomes codependent. That sort of
that expectation itself that they should be there, and if they're not, then they're not your friend.
Yeah, exactly. And we live in this really disposable society, which is, you know, this thing happened and you weren't there for me, so you're no longer my friend. We're not friends. Or like, you know, that person can't fulfill this. No one person is going to fulfill every role. And all you actually really need to do to navigate whether or not someone's a good friend or not is, do you like yourself when you're in their company? Do they bring out the best of you? Do you shine when you're around them? And if you do, then that's a great friendship. And if you don't, then sometimes you can say, well, actually, in this friendship, I'm the giver. And in these other friendships, I'm the receiver. But there will be times when someone doesn't make you shine because they're going through a hard time. They need you to play a particular role. It's about listening on a different level. I mean, I'm all about intuition, but it's about listening intuitively to what is required and what it is that you can show up and bring, without kind of ending up with this codependent push and pull of you have to behave like this, because that's a controlled relationship, which isn't so good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I had an instance with a friend who was expecting me to be there for him, and I refused to because I was busy doing my own thing, and he was in the middle of a breakdown, and I just said, no, you know, I'm busy. And he really got very angry and upset with me. And since then we haven't been much in contact. And I was telling to him that, you know, this is some sort of my expression of tough love. Like, I love you and I know you can do it yourself. Like, I don't need to be there for you in person to hug you. But, you know, some people take it, others don't. At the end of the day, nobody's responsible for your own well-being. You're the one who needs to really pull yourself together and find the power within yourself to overcome your...
Some people just need a hand up. They just need a hand up. And then some people, you know, they create drama for relationship insurance, which is, if I need you, you can't leave me, and then you will stay. And then other people will be, if you need me, then you won't leave me, and then you will stay. Because we're all scared of being alone, and we're scared of being kicked out in the tribe and the saber-toothed tiger again. So we can sometimes create relationship insurance in different ways, so that you won't need me if. And I think sometimes, you know, if you can feel that, it feels sticky, it feels like wanting, and it's quite repulsive, no matter which way it comes around. If it comes around as being inflicted upon you help, or if it comes around as inflicted upon you neediness, it can feel really sticky and really ugly. But sometimes, you know, somebody really genuinely just needs help, and they say, look, just pull me out of this hole right now, just help support me out of this hole. Yeah. And, you know, for some people, they try and support from the bottom up, but the best support is from the top up. And it sounds like what you're saying there is that there was a little bit of top up support going on, which is, you've got this, I know that you can do this. Yeah. If I grab hold of your arm and I try and pull you, you're just going to hold on to my arm. You're not going to reach for the grass outside of the hole and pull yourself up like a chat.
You're always going to need my hand all the time.
Yeah.
You got to find the ground yourself.
Yeah, that's when you suddenly feel like you've got an intravenous drip on your life force. You know, and those because sometimes people don't understand the words, they don't understand them, and we've got to find gentle ways of being able to say to somebody, I believe in you, you've got this, you're incredible, you can do this, you know, so that they can kind of like go, oh, so the reason why you're not helping me is not because you don't love me, it's because you love me that you're not helping me. And that's hard for people to get their head around, because help is synonymous with love. But also, I mean, if anyone's been in, I don't know why I'm talking about addiction here. Sometimes whoever's watching this who's struggling with someone with addiction, this is clearly for you. But like with addiction, the fact that you do get to a point of self-love when somebody's addicted, where you can't help them anymore because they have to do it for themselves, because you're enabling them to continue with the addiction if not. And we can all be addicted to drama. I definitely was addicted to drama when I was younger. I was, totally addicted to drama. And well, actually, I wasn't dramatic. I was addicted to men in drama. Oh, my favourite kind of men were broken. Oh, God, they were so much fun. They were like, I need to go and help him. And just completely distracted myself from doing anything for myself.
Oh, yeah.
What you do when you're young.
Oh, yeah. Well, we went on off a tangent here. We started from fears, and we ended up talking about friendships and relationships and dramas. Okay, let's get back to fears here. What's your number one strategy when you're helping yourself or others overcome and face their fears?
I think it's the acceptance of the fear rather than the denial of it. Because quite often when you look at it and you kind of give it a bit of space in your life and you can actually have a whole dialogue with your fear, because your fear will create an archetypal character. So, mine is a shivering chihuahua in an oversized jumper. So whenever I feel frightened of something, I kind of like look, and there's this, and it's kind of like, okay, the chihuahua's back. And so, I have another dog, which is, the Great Dane, sits down patiently and has a conversation with the shivering chihuahua and says, okay, what's the problem? We've never done this before. Okay, we've never done it before. But we've done lots of things that we've never done before, and we were okay. Yeah, but not this time. Okay, so what's really worrying you about this? Oh, I don't know, I don't think I could do it. I don't want to do it. Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay. What if, and you just get into a conversation. Now, when you look at kind of young psychology, they call this, the frightened child, and you might call it the parent or the coach. In my case, I look at them as being dogs, because if I think about a frightened child, there's a lot, I don't feel compassion for my inner snivelling little cow bag who's just like, and it's like, get on with it. I'm like, because then my survivor literally wants to grab her by her long nightie and give her a good hard shake, because that's what she needs. She needs a good shake. She's been told to grow up. She needs shaking, which is really impolite. If it's a shivering chihuahua, my survivor will not shake a chihuahua. It's too cute, man. It's really cute. So it kind of like means that you can look at different sides of yourself by creating archetypes, get into a conversation with it, and just kind of say, what actually is it that's really worrying you about this? Because most fears are just some kind of nonsense that you've sort of created in your own mind, and you can have those conversations with yourself.
Get to the bottom of it. What is this really about? Not all the surface explanations or excuses that we tend to come up with, but what does it really come down to? What's the fear of? What, rejection, judgment, or what is there?
Well, you just hit it on the head right there. It's always that. It's always rejection. It's always judgment. Like, I don't even know. Like, or sudden death. That's the other one. But majority of the time, it's rejection and judgment. And nobody's ever really looking at you. I remember being really devastated to hear that. My whole life I've been trying to perfect myself to be popular. To be liked and to be lovable. And when I suddenly found out that nothing anyone ever thinks is ever about you.
It's about them.
Yeah, but first, it's kind of like, no one's ever looking at your hair to do with your hair. It's your hair in comparison to their hair, And I kind of suddenly thought, oh, well, that's quite liberating, because then nobody's ever thinking anything bad about me. It's always about them. That's great. And then I went, well, hang on then. Nobody can ever be thinking anything good about me either. And then I realised, well, then nobody can actually ever love me, because it will be their definition of love based on themselves. Okay. And I suddenly thought, well, what the frickin' heck is love then? And I suddenly realised that actually what love is that you love who you are in somebody else's company. And I was kind of devastated, because I really wanted that Hollywood fairy tale, this person falls madly in love with you and you become special. And they're, you know, you are my world. We've heard all the songs. What the hell? What do you mean? I'm not you freaking, I'm going to be nobody's world? And then suddenly I realised, well, what a goddamn relief, because I don't really want to be anybody's world. What a huge amount of pressure to be somebody's world. Oh my God, you'd have to watch every single move that you made so you didn't disappoint them and suddenly weren't their world. And if you weren't their world, they may die because they would be so upset about the fact that their world had just literally fallen apart. What an awful life. Been all of those songs. And I suddenly thought, actually realising that when you love yourself, you can really love other people because you're not asking them to make you their world. And you can love yourself in their company, and you love them for who they bring out in you. And you become a uniqueness together of a vibe that comes from when you two are together. There's a vibe. It's like a thought form. It's like a creative energy.
It's a third entity you make together.
It's a third entity, and that third entity is love. That is love. It is the love that is tangible in a room when people see you together and they go, my God, they're such a cute couple. It's the love that when you're having an affair with someone at work that you shouldn't be having an affair with, everyone freaking knows about it because that entity is in the room and
everybody feels it.
Everybody feels it. And it's the thing that makes us want to watch those romantic things and write those romantic songs and do all of that stuff. But the real bottom line of it is that you love yourself in the company of somebody else. And what's magic is you can love yourself in the company of everybody, even the people you don't like. Because even the people that you don't like, that really piss you off, that really get you goat, bring out a strength in you, or bring out a shivering chihuahua, or they bring out another aspect of you, and you get to be more colourful from every single person that you meet. And suddenly you find that love of yourself is not based on specialness. It's based on people who don't like you. It's based on how you react to those people. It's based on how you convince them that you're pretty cool because you make them love themselves even though they don't like you. You can make someone love themselves even when they hate you. And that's fine. And you suddenly realise that that life is just full of all of these opportunities to be able to play these characters that have different. If love was a spectrum of colours, you just play a freaking massive rainbow in your life, and that makes me happy. And then you don't need to have all of that specialness, and then you don't need to have so much pressure person because that's exhausting for everybody.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for that. And the last question is, for a few minutes, how do you relate fearlessness with personal growth?
I think it comes back to down that support thing, that fearlessness comes from support. And I actually don't believe that any kind of personal, I don't believe that personal growth is sustainable alone.
Yeah.
So you can sit in your bedroom as much as you like and meditate, and you can shanty and you can do whatever you like, but at some point you're going to have to go out into the world. And you can do self-development books, but at some point you're going to have to actualize your learning in the world.
Yeah.
And I really think that you know, if you want a spiritual teacher, have a baby and have a dog that barks at night. And you know, because if you can remain open with a passionate heart, with a child crying or stuff going on, or you know, because most of the things that really terrify us happen at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, like, and it happened to me recently when my dog got sick at 3 in the morning, and I start like looking for things online because I've got no one to call at 3 in the morning. I look for things online because everything ranges between it's the hiccups and she's dead, and you're kind of like going, oh, why am I even looking at this online? I phoned the 24-hour vet, but at the end of the day, there's just me holding a sick dog that I don't know what to do. And I think that terror of I don't know what to do, and the decision I make right now is in charge of a life. Like when you have children, you know, the decision I make right now might mean life or death to my child in this moment. And those terrifying things, you can't, I mean, they're just unimaginable. And I think that when you have a support network that you know that you can rely on, or someone that you can phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, or any of that sort of thing where you've got a team, I think that spirituality and self-development and all of that stuff is really all about how you are connecting in the world, so that when you know you feel like you're going to fall over, to me that is the stabilizers on your bike as you cycle through rough territory in life. So as long as you've got those stabilizers, then I think that, to me, self-development is about having stabilizers on your bike. So you know your values, you know who you are, you know what you do, you know what triggers you. So I know that if I'm cold, hungry or tired, I'm going to turn into a bitch. Don't get cold, don't get hungry, don't get tired. Take your cardi with you and have some food in your bag. And if you're tired, just kind of cancel whatever it is that you were doing, because you're going to turn up and screw it up. So I think that when you know these things about you, that's what self-development means. Then you don't throw yourself into environments where you're not going to be the best of yourself and then terrify yourself that you're going to be chucked out of the cave and die out in the cold with the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, you come with inner resources, and then you know yourself, and you know how you react in different circumstances. So it all comes down to the inner journey and the inner self knowledge, meeting yourself, intimacy with yourself.
Yeah, but that inner journey is always witnessed outside of yourself. So you won't know if your inner journey has been successful until you test drive it. And you've got to test drive it in community. You've got to test drive it with people. And I tend to find that if I've really shifted something, people treat me differently. The external world completely shifts without me having done anything at all. So when I wanted to have a radio show on air, I had to learn to be okay about not being liked. And the radio show wasn't happening. It went on for 2 years. And then as soon as my life just felt like lots of really shit things happened, and I suddenly went, do you know what? I don't really care if people like me or not. I'm done trying. The minute I made that decision, I got the radio show. And I realised, doing the radio show, that you get text messages in going, this is a load of shit. And you get things that come at you that I would have fallen apart if they had happened before that inoculation. And I think life gives you inoculations, but it never gives you more than you can handle. Yeah. And as long as you take your inoculation and you get the antibodies built, then suddenly your life transforms. And self-development is about giving yourself inoculations by going into the dark places of yourself, witnessing yourself, giving yourself compassion and love, and coming back out in the world and going, right, well, let's see what's that's changed then. And it will have changed stuff. It always does.
External reality is a reflection of our internal reality.
Totally. It totally is. Yeah, it totally is. Every time. So the more fears you overcome, then the more liberated you become. Absolutely. Because you actually can then attract the things into your life that you fear. But so it's those things, isn't it? But you have to have done the internal workings before you're going to get the right thing. So I know we're wrapping up, but I think that this is important. Like when it comes to relationships, and you kind of like think, oh, I really want to be in a relationship, but there may be a secret fear about it. Like I don't want to end up like my mother. And if you're still carrying that, I don't want to end up like your mother, what you'll do is you will attract loads of people that are kind of like your dad, to keep reminding you to not end up like your mother. Mm-hmm. Because we keep attracting the things that we think keep us safe, because we genuinely are attracted in life to what heals us. We will seek what heals us. And so if we really believe that not dating a guy that's like your dad is going to heal you, you'll keep dating guys that are like your dad so that you know not to date them, weirdly. Mm-hmm. The minute you transcend that thought, you suddenly attract completely different people into your life. And you'll suddenly find like, well, that one's different. And when you learn to listen to people archetypally, you learn to listen when you've gone from the lover archetype or the femme fatale archetype, who is secretly an abandoned orphan, to the father figure archetype. And then you go, whoa, this person's completely different to the kind of guy that I used to fancy before. There must be something wrong with him. It's the first thing you think. And then after that, he's a bit boring because he's stable. And then after that, you wake up to the fact that actually, I've changed, so I'm just attracting different men into my life, and perhaps a man that's going to be a little bit better. I know I'm talking very female, heterosexual here, but you can apply that to whatever sexuality or sex you actually are. So I know that people can do that. So, but of course, I can only talk from my own point of view, really.
Okay, Becky. How can the viewers of this video reach you?
My website, which is .com, and if you look at the very top of my website, there's a bar, and that will lead you to a free course called Idea Spark, and that's all about getting brilliant ideas so that you can kind of because I think ideas are the new currency. If you've got a good idea, it doesn't really matter what's happening in your life. If you've got an idea, you can fix anything. So yeah, there's a free course there if you want to go and get it. It's on beckywalsh.com.
I liked your concept of idea sex.
Yes, I know, and I've had to call this idea Spark because I've been a little bit careful.
Yes.
But my podcast Idea Sex is going to be coming out soon, so you can go and find that on the website as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Becky, for joining us.
Very well.
Thank you to our viewers for watching today's interview. And I hope you've been inspired and you can start applying the ideas and tips that we discussed in your daily life. If you found this interview useful, share it on your social media. Tell your friends that you're participating at this amazing online challenge for fearless warriors. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Journey to Bliss. And last but not least, sign up to my newsletter on the link below to get my free Bliss Blueprint, the 3 stages of radical transformation from within. Thank you again and see you next time. Bye bye!